Okay guys, we are doing volume today with prisms and cylinders, so make sure that you get out your area and perimeter cheat sheet and then also the volume and surface area cheat sheet that you guys should have gotten on Thursday or Friday. If you did not get that, make sure to ask whoever is subbing for me to grab that. Okay, so by the end of the period, you guys will be able to know and understand how to find the volume of prisms and cylinders. Think about last week where you guys were doing surface area. So this is a rectangular prism and we have our length, our width, and our height. For volume, we are going to cut that into cubic units. And that is basically just having a little teeny tiny cube inside of each of these three figures. So if we cut it into cubic units, it would look like this. And then you have, a certain amount of cubic units in there. So volume of a solid, here's a definition, is the number of cubic units contained on the inside of a solid figure. And we would write this as units cubed or cubic units. If you're doing feet, you can do like feet to the third power or cubic feet. You need to make sure that you have the correct units there. Surface area is units squared, volume is units cubed. So we're trying to figure out how many cubic units fit into a solid figure. We are doing volume of a prism and a cylinder today. So volume of a prism is V equals B times H, where B is the area of the base and then H is the height of your solid. So that's why I said to get out your area and perimeter cheat sheet, because you are going to need to do the area of, trapezoid, a triangle, circle, that kind of stuff. Volume of a cylinder is still your B times H, but the area of a cylinder is pi r squared, or area of a circle is pi r squared, so that's why we just leave it as pi r squared times H. B is the area of your base, which I guess you technically don't need that. H is the height of your solid, and R is the radius. So volume of a cylinder is also considered B times H. This is already on your notes, so technically you don't need this area of the base, but those are the same exact equations there. We're just adding in the area of a circle for our B for the cylinder. So we'll start with these problems here. I'll do a couple for you, then you guys can try on your own. So with any shape, you need to figure out what the base is first. So me looking at this, I'm going to say that these two are the bases because the other ones are the sides or the lateral edges. So to figure out our volume, we need to do what B equals, and B is a rectangle, so we're going to do 12 times 11, length times width, which is 132. And then the height, so we already used, the 12 and the 11, that goes with our rectangle, so the height of this figure is 12. Then to figure out the volume, you're just going to plug in your B, which is 132, and then your height, which is 12. Multiply those two together, and you get 1,584 centimeters cubed. Make sure that you have your units on. You don't have to put the units in till the end, but make sure that you do have those. So for number 2, this is another rectangular prism, so figure out what sides are your bases. Actually, this happens to be a square prism because we have 7 and 7 for the sides of the bases, so that means it's a square. So we can do our base, which is 7 times 7, or S squared for a square, would be 49. If you guys look at your surface area and volume cheat sheet for a cube, volume, you can do s to the third because you're multiplying, all the sides are the same length. So keep that in mind when you're thinking about a cube. This is a square prism, so we already used the length and the width here, but our height is 10. So we cannot use this equation for volume because this is not a cube. So the height is 10 here, and then we're just going to plug it into our V equals B, which is 49, times H, which is 10. And then you would multiply those two together, you get 490 meters cubed. Then we have a triangular prism and a trapezoidal prism. So these are, I hope I didn't do this. Okay. These are like what we did with surface area last week. So again, you still have to figure out what your bases are. So because this is a triangular prism, my triangles are the bases. Remember that rectangles make up the lateral edges of any prism. So for this triangle, the area of a triangle is 1/2 base times height. The base of this triangle is 4 and the height is 3. So we're using this and this here. The 5 happens to be our hypotenuse, but because we're only finding volume, we do not need to use that value. Make sure that you're not using values that will not help you get to your answer. So the area of this triangle is 6. 1/2 times 4 times 3 is 6. And then the height is 3. So we're using that other leftover value there. I'm going to plug it into your volume equation. So B, which is 6, times the height, which is 3. And you get 18 kilometers cubed for my final answer there. For number 4, so it is a trapezoidal prism, so, whoops, this is one base, and then this one is the other. So again, the rectangles make up the lateral edges or the lateral sides, lateral faces of our prisms. So I have my 2 trapezoids there for the bases. The area for a trapezoid is 1/2 times base 1 plus base 2. So this is one of my bases. This is the other for the trapezoid. So 6 plus 12. And I can go ahead and, whoops, not that. Cross those 2 values out because I used them. And then the height of the trapezoid itself is the 6.3. So you're going to multiply all those together. 1/2 times 6 plus 12 times 6.3 is 56.7. And then this is where you need to be careful to decide on the height of the figure itself. So 7 is the side of the trapezoid. It is not the height of the figure. So we are not going to use that 7. The height of the trapezoidal prism is 14. So then plug that into your equation, V equals B, so 56.7 times the height, which is 14. So then multiply those two together, and you get 793.8 miles cubed. So number 5 is a cube, and this is what I was talking about earlier. Since it is a cube, you know that each side is the same height, length, width. So volume of a cube is just s to the third because you have all of the same lengths there. So all we really need to do is 7 to the third power, which is 7 times 7 times 7. You can put that into your calculator, use the little caret button, and you get 343 feet cubed. You can also do it the long way, like figure out your base, which is 7 times 7, and you get 49. And then figure out the height, which is also 7, and then plug it all in and do 49 times 7. You're getting the same exact answer, just the first way is a little bit quicker. For the next one, it is a triangular prism again. So if you guys want to pause the video and then try this one on your own, that would be great. So you have two triangles there for your bases. So area of a triangle is 1/2 base times height. Now we have a base or the height, whatever you want to use here, and this is a right triangle, so we also need the base. This is 8, so that means our height, whoops, didn't want to do that, dang it. Our height is 6 and our base is 8, or vice versa. We are not going to use that 10. The 10 is the hypotenuse, so we don't need to use that right now. I'm going to do 1/2 times 6 times 8, which would be 24. And then the height of this prism, okay, like I said before, the hypotenuse here is not included in our volume here, so we don't need to use that. We are going to use the 9 for our height. The hypotenuse has nothing to do with the height of the prism. We only need that when we're doing surface area. So make sure that you are looking at your prisms and not using the values that you do not need to use. So volume for this one would be B times the height, so 24 times 9, which is 216 inches cubed. Then moving on to the cylinders here, so the cylinder is a little bit different because it's still B times H, but the area of a circle is pi r squared, so it just makes it a little easier by plugging that in for the B. Okay, so my radius here is 3 and my height is 8. So I'm just going to plug that into the equation. V equals pi times r, which is 3 squared times 8. And again, make sure you use parentheses if you're putting that into your calculator. If you don't use parentheses, it's going to do order of operations wrong, and then you'll get the wrong answer. So if I put that into my calculator, I'm going to round it to 2 decimal places, so I get 226.19 inches cubed for my final answer. For number 8, they give you the diameter. The diameter is 16, so the radius is half of that, which is 8. So again, plug it into the equation. So we have pi times r squared times h. Again, use parentheses so that you don't get order of operations mixed up, and you get 2,211.68 meters cubed. If you guys have any questions on that, feel free to email me. If you need to go back and look at the answers again, go ahead and rewind it. So now we're going to work backwards. With area and perimeter, we did some questions like this. We didn't do anything with surface area, but it's the same concept. We know that volume is B times H, or for cylinders, it's pi r squared times H. So we're just going to use what we have and plug those in to figure out what the missing value is. So I have my V, and then I have, you know, a length, and I have a width or a height. So again, volume can kind of be seen as length times length times width times height, because length times width is your base. So that is how I'm going to do number 1. So my volume, which is 200, volume is 200 equals length times width times height. So I just have to put my two values there, 12 times 8, or 12.8 times 6.5, and then I'm trying to find x. So you need to multiply, you know, these two together to get one common term. 200 equals 12.8 times 6.5 is 83.2. And then you would solve this like you normally would. So divide both sides by 83.2 to get x by itself. Um, 83.2 cancels on that side, and you end up getting x equals 2.4 centimeters for the width there. Same thing with the cylinder, just plug it into your equation. So V equals pi r squared times h. Our volume is 475. We have our pi, we are looking for the r, and we know that our h is 18. So you can combine the 18 in the pi, and you would get, I didn't put this in my calculator, hold on. So you would have 475 equals 18 pi times r squared. You can divide both sides by 18 pi, and just put that in your calculator, and you would get r squared equals 8.3998, and it's a really long decimal, so you can do some rounding there. Then we need to get r by itself, so because we have r squared, we need to take the square root of both sides, and we get r equals about 2.9 feet for the final answer. Again, make sure that you have your units there. These ones are specifically asking us to just find the height. So again, you have V equals either pi r squared times h, or V equals b times h, or V equals length times width times height. Doesn't matter. Length times width is what b is, the area of a base. So it's the same kind of concept there. Okay, so for number 1, we have a cylinder, so we need to use the pi r squared times h. So just plug that directly into your equation. 3240 pi equals pi r squared times h. R squared, 9 times 9, would be 81. So we would have 81 pi times h equals the 3240 pi. So when you divide both sides by 81 pi, the pi's on both sides cancel, so you're left without a pi. And so does the 81 on this side. So 3240 divided by 81 is 40 centimeters. And that is what your h equals. Then for number 2, this could be a cube. It could be a square prism. We don't know until we figure out what h is. So again, I'm just going to plug in 125 for V. I know that my length is 5. I know that my width is 5, and I'm looking for the height. So 5 times 5 is 25, and then you need to divide both sides by 25 to get your final answer, which would be the height is 5 inches. So this does happen to be a cube. For number 3, we have a triangular prism. So this is where you kind of need to be careful. We know that the area of a triangle is 1/2 base times height. Okay, so this whole thing is our b in our equation. So we need to have V, which is 27, equals 1/2 times the base of the triangle, which is 3, because both of these are congruent, times the height of the triangle, which is 3, and we are looking for the h. So that's probably the biggest mistake that gets made, is that you guys just plug in the numbers there without actually using the formula for the area of the shape that you have. So 1/2 times 3 is 4.5, so we have 27 equals 4.5 h. And then we need to divide both sides by 4.5. And you get h equals 6 feet for number 3. Okay, Then on to the word problems. So sometimes you're going to want to draw a picture here. Sometimes you might not need to. But first one is asking us how much water will a cup hold if it has a diameter of 8 inches and a height of 10 inches. So because it says diameter, that means I'm dealing with a cylinder here. So it's asking us how much, which means we are looking for V. Okay, so volume is pi times r. Because the diameter is 8 inches, the radius has to be 4. So pi times r squared times the height of 10. Plug that all in your calculator. Make sure that you use parentheses, and you get 502.65. 502.65 inches cubed. Again, if you want to draw a picture, you can. When you deal with a little bit harder of a problem, you might want to draw a picture, but this one you probably wouldn't have to. Same thing with number 2, how much yogurt would fit in a box that is 6.5 centimeters times 8 centimeters times 2.4 centimeters, or 6.5 by 8 by 2.4. So you know you have your length, your width, and your height. A box is obviously a prism, so again you're just going to do volume equals B times H, or length times width times height. Length is 6.5, width is 8, height is 2.4, and it doesn't really matter the order you put those in, because with multiplication, 2 times 3 is the same thing as 3 times 2, so order does not matter. Only when you are subtracting and adding does order matter. So if you put all those together, you get 124.8 centimeters cubed as your final answer. For number 3, if a rectangular prism has a length of 3 feet and a width of 8 feet and a volume of 144 feet cubed, what is the height of the prism? So we are going to have to work backwards here. We know the volume is 144. We know the length is 3. We know the width is 8. And we are looking for the height. So before I do anything, I need to multiply the 3 times the 8, which is 24. And then I need to get my h by itself. So divide both sides by 24. And you get the height is 6 feet. For number 4, your mom asked for a rectangular birthday cake this year. When she got it, the final dimensions were 9 by 13 by 3. Your dad wanted a round birthday cake, so he got a 2-layer cake that has a diameter of 10 inches and a height of 5 inches. Who has the bigger cake and how much larger is it? So for mom, she did a rectangular birthday cake. So we know the volume of her cake is 9 times 13 times 3, which would be 351 inches cubed. And that is mom's cake. So then for dad's cake, it is a cylinder because it's a round birthday cake. He got a 2-layer cake that has a diameter of 10 inches, so that means the radius is 5. So we're going to do pi times 5 squared times 5 for the height, which is about 392.7 inches cubed. So the round cake is bigger. And then to figure out how much bigger it is, all we need to do is do some subtraction. So 392.7 minus 351. The round cake is bigger by 41.7 cubic inches. So way more cake. Okay, so once you guys finish up with your notes, please make sure to go see the sub to get your homework for this lesson. So it is your 7.3 homework. Before you click out of this video though, I need you guys to complete the table first. So there are 4 questions at the top of your homework, it asks you, one is a rectangular prism, a trapezoidal prism, a triangular prism, and then a cylinder. I need you to, first of all, draw the net of those four. I need you to do the surface area of them, and I also need you to do the volume. Okay, so once you finish those up, then you guys can play the video again to get your answers. So complete those four problems first, and then check your answers with what I have on this video here. So since I messed that one up, apparently, I gotta draw my net again. So my two bases are here, and the lateral height is 4. So those are all 4. So 4, and it doesn't really matter where you put these, just as long as they match up. I know some of you guys are like, where does this go? It doesn't matter for the sides for these types of shapes because they're going to match up anyhow. So then we have 2 here, 2 here. We got 2 and 2, same thing here. And then we have 3 here, 3 here, 3 here, 3 here. Okay, so I'm going to do surface area first because that's what I did first. So surface area is 2 times b plus p times h. So the area of a square or a rectangle here is length times width, or base times height. So to find the b, I need to do 2 times 3, which is 6. The perimeter, sorry guys, of Nala. They're gonna bark, I apologize. The perimeter of his base is 2 times 2 plus 3 times 2 because you have two sides that are the same. I multiply and add those together, I get 10, and then the height of this figure is 4. So plug that all in, you get 2 times 6 plus 10 times 4, and you have 12 plus 40, which is 52 meters squared. Then for the volume, we have b times h. So we already found our b, which was 6, so you can just plug that in. And then the height of the prism is 4. So 6 times 4 is 24 meters cubed. Next one is a trapezoidal prism. So we have our net, and again, it doesn't have to be perfect. I'm not an artist. I don't expect you guys to have this as perfect as can be. So there is my net. The two bases, the two smaller bases of the trapezoid are 5, and then the longer bases, the bottom bases, are 8. The height of the trapezoid itself is 3.7. And then the sides of the trapezoid, the slanted sides, are 4. Then the lateral height, or the lateral faces, are all 12 tall. Because I already used my 4, I used my 5, I used my 3.7, and I used my 8, so the 12 is the only one that I have left. So then I have my bases here. Again, sorry I didn't fill this in, so these two should both be 4 because those two would match up. Same thing here. And then the other one, 5 and 5, match up with the 5 and 5 here. So again, I did surface area first, so that's what I'm going to do. The area of a trapezoid is 1/2 times base 1 plus base 2 times the height. So I have 1/2. The bases for this trapezoid are 5 and 8. And the height of the trapezoid is 3.7. So if I multiply all those together, I get 24.05. The perimeter of the trapezoid is adding all the sides together. So 4 plus 5 plus 4 plus 8. And we would get 21. And then I already used all of those, the numbers. So the last one left is 12, and that is our height. Plug that into our equation. 2 times b, 24.05, plus p, which is 21, times h, which is 12. Multiply that all together, and you would get the surface area is 300.1 miles squared for the surface area. Then for the volume, so again, volume is just B times H. You already figured out what your B was, and that was 24.05. The height we also already figured out, which was 12. So just multiply those two together, and you get 288.6 miles cubed. Again, make sure that you are using the correct units. Miles squared or units squared is for surface area, and then cubic units is for volume. For the triangular prism, so this one is a little bit different than what we have done in the past for the triangular prism, so be careful when you are making this or drawing in the values. So the base of the triangle is 10, and then the height is 5.6. Then I have the two sides. So one of the sides is 7, one of the sides is 8, and it just has to match up on both sides. Whoops, there. So you can't have like an 8 here and then a 7 here. They have to match up with the one up top. Then I have my 3 sides because there are 3 triangles because there are 3 sides to a triangle. Then the lateral face height is 5. And then we need to fill in this other side. So this would be 8, which means that's 8 as well. Same thing here, 8 and 8. And then here would be 7. That means this would be 7 as well. So I figured out surface area first. So the area for a triangle is 1/2 base times height. So I'm going to do 1/2. The base of this triangle is 10, and the height of the triangle is 5.6. This was different than what we did last week, because we had 4 and 4. When we have a triangle like this, whoops, our height is down the middle, and then our base is there. Whatever is perpendicular to the base is our height. So the base of this triangle is 28, the area base. Then the perimeter of the triangle, we have to add all the sides together. So we'd have 10 plus 8 plus 5, or not 5.7, plus 7. The 5.6 we already used for the height. And then the perimeter of the base is 25. The height of the triangular prism itself is 5. We use the 7, we use the 10, we use the 5.6, and the 8. So 5 is the last one left over. You have 2 times b, which is 28, plus p, which is 25, times the height, which is 5. And you would get 181 meters squared for the surface area. For the volume, it's still b times h. So we already figured out our b, which was 28, and the height, which is 5. Multiply those two together and you get 140 meters cubed as your volume for this triangular prism. Okay, so Brandon found a mistake as I'm doing this video here, so I'm going to do this over again. 5 is my radius, 10 is my height. For surface area, I have two bases, so 2 times pi times r squared plus 2 pi r times h. And that is for surface area. So what I had for surface area initially was fine, 471.24 centimeters squared. Then for volume, it is pi r squared times h. So it would be pi times 5 squared times 10, which I need to do that in my calculator here quick. 25 pi times 10 would be 785.4 centimeters cubed. If you guys have any questions on anything, please email me, finish up your homework, and then get that uploaded to Canvas so that I can give you points for it. I don't have access to print off the homework page here at my house, but I am going to try and put a key up for you guys. Let me know if you have any questions.